Bloodland is created by Stephen Page, he's the director, and Wayne Blair is the writer. They're both Queensland artists, and they were approached by Kate Blanchett and Andrew Upton from the Sydney Theatre Company to talk about making a show for the Sydney Theatre Company about Indigenous issues. Now, Stephen Page is very famous. He's the artistic director and the lead choreographer for Balngayngu Dance Theatre based in Sydney. And he's done lots of things like the opening of the Sydney Olympics back in 2000, as well as being very famous for touring around the nation and around the world with Balngayngu Dance Theatre doing incredible work. For me, Bloodland is an incredible piece of cultural gymnastics. It's looking at so many different ideas and a sense of what the future of Indigenous theatre might be. It's looking at incorporating dance, music, language, cultural materials, and real lived experiences of Indigenous people. The play is set in Yolngu country, in northeast Arnhem Land, so up near Yirrkala, in Yolngu country. And in fact, the whole show, well, not the whole show, bits of the show are in English, but a lot of it is in Yolngu Mata, which is the language of the Yolngu from that area. And what I love about use of the language is that it's like a foreign language in our own country. Very few people speak it in terms of the whole nation, but it has an authority and a sense of purpose. It explains the world around us in a very different way. It was explained to me, the whole idea of Indigenous languages, that there are very limited uses of adjectives. So it's not about a blue sky or a large rock. It's really about putting these metaphors together, putting these words together to create very complex metaphors in the language. So to use the language on stage, it's like a heightened poetry. If you understand Yolngu Mata, then you understand it in a very heightened and poetic way. There are some very deep themes in this show. One of the things that are pulling apart at different Aboriginal communities across the nation, issues of mining rights and royalties, how different families will often have kinship and custodian rights over a very particular part of the land that they say, well, great, you can go mine some other part and we'll get the royalties from it. So sometimes families are in conflict over who's got the right to mine on which land, etc., etc. And also issues of native title. I mean, it's been touched, my family's been touched by it as well. Native title is a very divisive structure where you have to prove ownership somehow. Something that you've never questioned, you've lived your whole life living on your land, suddenly you have to prove it to a tribunal that there is this unbroken connection. So there are a lot of identity issues around land, mining, family relationships and tensions that are being played out in Bloodland. One of the central themes for the show is, it's almost like a Romeo and Juliet story. It's forbidden love. This young couple meet, they have known each other, they fall in love, and they want to have a relationship, but they are of the wrong skin. Now, skin's a very complex idea, in fact. You've got to think of it as like arranged marriages or genetic vitality, that in a small Indigenous community, you have skins or moiety, different clan groups, so that you don't marry the wrong person, you get promised to a certain person because that's the right skin. If you go against that, you're going against a whole range of traditions. It means that skin basically means you have a right to a song, to visual arts, to certain sacred sites, to dance certain dances, to sing certain songs. If you go against that, you are turning your back on a whole cultural perspective, and very few people do it. The whole idea of skin is about keeping a community genetically vital, but also to keep alive all the stories. So it's just like Romeo and Juliet. These two young people who are not promised to each other, who are the wrong skin, have to go against the clan to have a relationship. And there's this one figure, a man who has been promised to the young girl, an older man has been promised to the young girl who feels a bit slighted and doesn't know where he fits, and how do you continue a culture when people are challenging it and breaking it all the time. Some of the artists involved will be very familiar. They've worked with the Queensland Theatre Company, well, on a number of occasions. Wayne Blair, who's an incredible actor, grew up in Rockhampton, studied here in Brisbane, has been doing an incredible thing in film and in theatre across the nation and overseas. He was the writer on this piece, and his ability to, I don't know, provide insight into character, into the story has been quite remarkable, especially in film. Some of the actors, Elaine Crombie, Ursula Jovic, David Page, and in fact, Hunter Page, who's Stephen Page's son, is in the show. And I think he's a star in the making. You look at Hunter Page and you think, this is a man who's going to make an incredible contribution to the arts in Australia. I mean, it's the family business after all. Check him out, his performance is incredible. And Kathy Marika is a performer who has such depth. You can watch her on stage and feel that her eyes are just drinking you in. You see hundreds of thousands of years of culture there in her, in the way she moves, the way she sings, the way she dances. It's an incredible privilege, I think, to see her work. This show was created by the Sydney Theatre Company and Balngayngu Dance Theatre in Sydney. It's going to play at the Adelaide Festival as well. And QPAC and Queensland Theatre Company have come together to present it here in Queensland, in Brisbane. That relationship with QPAC is very important to us. QPAC's been a great supporter of Indigenous art, Indigenous theatre for the last, let's say 25 years. And so to continue that relationship with the Queensland Theatre Company, I think we've got high hopes. We've got hopes that into the future we'll be doing large-scale, internationally significant Indigenous work created here in Brisbane. One of the things that we're trying to do is understand why people come to Indigenous theatre. So we're doing a survey. You can get online to queenslandtheatre.com.au and fill out a survey. That information will help us shape what Indigenous theatre can be in this city.